Hello, everybody. Contrary to what this might say, this is actually my second attempt at my first stream, because the first stream went very badly. Had some technical difficulties, and the video quality was not very great. But, fortunately, I have gotten that fixed. So I'm here for a second attempt at my first stream. Thank you to anybody who might join me tonight. First, I'd like to kind of introduce myself. My name is Sink, and I am a paramedic. I've been so for about 15 years now. And I started this VTubing thing mostly because I was going through a very dark place in my life. As you can imagine, being a paramedic, you see a lot of things that you would rather not do. Some things that really stick with you. So, it was during one of my low points that I went looking for some motivation, some encouragement, and kind of happened upon VTubers who make motivational and encouraging videos. And they really helped me out. It, it managed to get me through what was a pretty dark time. So I got this idea into my head that maybe I could do the same thing. So I haven't streamed yet, except for that first time, which didn't go very well, but I have been making videos that are meant to be encouraging. If you would like to check those out, they're on my YouTube and on TikTok, but we're not here for that right now. Let's see. So tonight what I'm going to be playing is some Dispatch. And I've been looking forward to this game for quite a bit. I played the original demo of it, and it was a lot of fun. So I wanted to kind of do a blind reaction. Not really blind right now. My first attempt at a stream, I managed to play through the first chapter, but I'm going to play through it again tonight, and then hopefully get to the second chapter. It's kind of funny for me to be playing this because I've never been on the other side of the screen. And from a medic standpoint, well, dispatchers are sometimes the enemy of medics. But it's a superhero dispatcher, so maybe it'll be better. Alright, I'm going to get this set up. Apologies for that. Like I said, I'm pretty new at this, so I don't don't sometimes have it quite all down yet. You know, it's a bit of skill to juggle all of this, and starting this VTuber thing has kind of gotten me helped me to respect those who do this a lot. It takes a lot of juggling of the same thing. Especially when you've never actually done this before. Oh, so, starting screen of Dispatch. I am playing this on the Steam Deck. So if you see some weird button prompts, then that is probably why. Let's see. I'm gonna go with He's Gone. You know, I do understand why these people would be a little mean to him, honestly, I do. But seems they enjoy being mean a little too much, you know? I really like this depiction of a superhero as well. You know, behind the mask, they're just regular people who are more than capable of making the wrong decisions, more than capable of letting their emotions rule what they do. And I like to play it that way because I would like to think that these people who helped kill my father were in front of me mocking the fact that they had killed my father. I might be a little bit angry about that, you know? Alright. Well, he just bit me, so I guess I'll pull him back. Really glad I kidnapped you tonight. Not what you like to hear. God, the animation of this is fantastic. Honestly, when I'd first seen the trailers of this game, I had a hard time believing that it was an actual game. I thought somebody was pulling a prank and maybe releasing an animation, or this was the next evolution of AI art, you know? But no, somebody actually went through all the trouble to do all of this, and it is actually pretty incredible. People who made this game are so talented. Got him. Got him too. Apologies. Just had to look up the settings for a moment. Say what you will about Mecha Man, but even outside of his mecha suit, he definitely can still take a punch. God, this animation is fantastic, though. I still can't believe how amazing it is. All right, little hacking mini game. Let's see. Luckily, playing Helldivers has trained me for this. Has it trained me well? Not very much, but it has trained me for this. Up and around we go. One more, one more. And then salam. We are in location data extracted. Let's go. I'm here to fuck you up. I like to pick the most sarcastic options, you know? I think it's funnier that way. Same energy as somebody trying to insult you and then you just open up your phone and start texting. Except in this case, you are an architect of his downfall. Don't you wish you had a button on your phone that just made them get punted out of the room? I know I sure do. And here he comes walking back in. Honestly, a little surprising. Medically speaking, being punted by a giant robot's what we call a massive multi-trauma. Oh, I had turned on the censorship just because I didn't want to get my first ever stream banned, and I'm really glad that I did because for me, the censorship makes all of this so much funnier. Maybe I should focus instead of yammering on about how much that black bar amuses me. I can't help it though. The black bar does just amuse me. It pulls more attention to the fact that he's nude than his nudity would have, because that black bar swinging around between his legs is so much more obvious than his actual nudity would have been. Oof. God, the animation is just fantastic. It really is amazing to just watch how smoothly this animation comes together. It's still kind of wild to me that this is a video game. Not sure it's a cinematic video game, but Still, I don't remember a game that was put together quite like this. Mecha Man becomes Mecha Pinata. I would think I was doing a terrible job playing him, but this is kind of the origin story of how he came to be powerless. So it's only to be expected that the first scene would be me getting my ass kicked. Ooh. Gotta say, Shroud does look pretty cool. He's a cool villain, at least as far as his mask goes. Oh, let's ignore him. Reach the fuck it point. Alright, we've made it out. Scot free, of course. Except for that. Beep, beep, boom. Dispatch. Title. Out front making a TikTok video when you catch something unexpected. You know, I don't doubt that catching that explosion's going to go a lot more viral than any dance you could have done. So, honestly, you got pretty lucky that morning. Mecha Man Prime. Aw. This Mecha Man's gotta be my favorite. Look at that mustache. Fantastic. Guy in the background, though, is kind of cool. Wonder what his deal is. Brave Brigade member turned villain. Mecha Man for the modern era. Sarcastic. Burnt out. Kind of scraggly. Sounds about right. And this is supposed to be months later, and he's still looking like that. And you can hear the resignation and depression in his voice. Everything I've done is for you. I mean, somebody doesn't just get up and go get their asses kicked every morning for no reason at all. I need the skinny and I need to deliver. Well, no comment. You want the skinny, you don't get the skinny. uh, wasn't a question in there. You just stood up to say all that just to be a dick. Wow, what an ass. Oh, can't let that one go. You ever gotten your ass kicked in a room full of reporters? How do you feel about the crowd seeming to encourage him while he was beating you? You know, you're on the wrong side of an argument if everybody around you just watches you get beaten and cheers. See, most sarcastic answer. Hey, I was watching that. You call it assholes, asshole. Honestly, not so sure anymore. Hey, sounds like you have problems, but I don't really care right now. The Skittles. Sneak attack with the left. Got him. Cool. Still not doing great. Managed to surprise the first guy, but oh, oh, here comes some help. All right. Wow, she is really pretty. I like her design. Blonde blazer. I wonder if she went with that name just because everybody kept calling her Blondie. Oh, that's a dislocated, isn't it? Look like some kind of mime DJ. Oh, that hurt. You know, that's an actually. Is it? I apologize. I've been playing on mute this entire time. Also, welcome, Dragonforge. Sorry that sorry that I've been playing on mute. Let me see if I can fix that. Uh, well, hmm. Perhaps that is not the right one. Hold on. Just a sec. I do apologize. And I really appreciate you speaking up. Like the title says, this is my first time doing a doing a stream, so I'm not got all of the settings down just yet. Uh, Oh, well, this is embarrassing and a little annoying. I do apologize. Let's see. No, that's not it either.
That?
Oh, wait. I think I got it. All right. I believe I have the sound working now.
Was impressive.
Hmm? Oh. It's fine. Don't worry about keeping
Draken
up.
Hunter,
Something to
if
do
you
with
are
the
still
powers.
there, I
It
really
takes a lot for me to
appreciate you
feel
pointing
anything.
that out. And if not,
What a sad sentence.
well, thank you anyway. Because
Hey,
I was
you
just
should
sitting
give
here in
yourself more
silence the whole
credit
time.
to do what you did for as long as you did, especially without superpowers.
Not true. What do you call this?
I can fix that one for you too.
No thanks, I like this one.
Thank you. So, how did you afford all that? You must have spent hundreds of thousands of...
Millions. So you'll understand when the check comes.
You're serious? Millions.
Yeah, I basically burned through my entire inheritance keeping it going. The last couple of years have just been duct tape and sheer
Millions. Last couple of
determination.
years. Nope.
Why did you do it?
Do what?
Sacrifice everything to be a superhero to the point of financial...
Ruin?
I was gonna say hardship, but ruin was the first word that came to mind, yeah. You must be completely broke at this point.
Well, I like
don't
helping
know. I guess I just like helping people.
So, are you drunk yet or what?
Yeah, I should probably be switching to water.
Good, because I was hoping, after some drinks to loosen you up, I could learn a little more about you. And, if all that went well, present you with a proposition.
A proposition?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if this is a fit or not, you know? Then it's just a matter of picking the right moment.
Well, propositions late at night in a bar can go
He
any
totally
number of
thinks he's
ways.
getting laid, doesn't he?
That's actually not water.
God, this
Oh
is
my
like
God.
pure alcohol.
And that
It's
is
not
not
like
the way to go
alcohol,
about
it is
that.
alcohol. I know because you spit it directly into my open mouth. That's water. That, see? How it has ice in it?
You drink hard liquor from a pint glass?
Actually, I usually just drink it straight from the
Kind of a
bottle.
turn
but
off when your
I
first
thought
thing
that
is to
would be
spit right in
embarrassing.
their face. But, I can understand the
I'm
confusion,
gonna go clean
considering
up.
she's
I'm so sorry.
literally
No,
drinking.
it's fine. I will be right back.
It seems to be liquid alcohol,
What are you doing?
probably 100%.
Hey, bitch! Hey, talking to you, bitch.
Alright, just so you know, I only turned around because someone yelled, not because I'm a bitch or anything.
Don't you watch the news? This is a superhero bar.
Oh, wow, are you a superhero?
Wow, are you a superhero?
That's so cool.
So cool.
Is this your power? You're like, tell people obvious shit
Such
guy?
a sarcastic ass. I love it.
Are you really going to act like you don't remember me?
Wait, it's coming back to me. Hold on. Yeah, it's coming back to me.
Let's see, what should we call this guy?
Wait,
Sunglasses at
I
night
know it.
guy. That seems.
You are sunglasses indoors at night guy. Your superpower is that you're able to let everyone know in the room that you're a douchebag, because you should literally never do that unless you're at the final table of the World Series of Poker, but even then, if you win, you're still a fucking loser.
Shit. That is... Damn.
You good?
Sorry. I choked in my spit.
You know you told a good joke when somebody who doesn't even
control
like
the
you
fire.
just
The
laughs.
fire?
And the flame. And my skin does not burn. I am flambe. And you...
Wait, oh shit, I do remember you. You're that shitty villain I busted up.
Not anymore, mecha dick. As I literally just said. I am flambe, a real superhero. And you are not mecha man anymore. So... you need to get the fuck out of here.
Let's see.
We can do this
Go with
the
alcohol.
easy way.
I think that'll be fun. Whoosh.
Sorry, which way was that?
No, Punch Up. You're literally fanning the flames right now.
Shit, yeah, you're right. Anybody got a rug? You gotta drop and roll, lad.
Thought he doesn't burn.
Some people become scared before they even know they're hurt. Like babies.
Hey, Mecha Dick, get the fuck out of here.
I get it. Can you just tell Blazer I'm outside?
Ow!
Relax, I'm leaving.
Seems a bit excessive, don't you think?
Hey, I couldn't find you.
It's cool. I was just admiring the art on this dumpster. Can't tell why anyone would put
Fart
those
and
words
barf.
together. Why are you holding
Yeah,
drinks?
I think that
Nightcap?
belongs hanging in a
You're
museum
trouble.
somewhere.
Actually, according to the bartender, that's exactly what
That
you
is
are.
some
What happened in there?
very
I walk
artistic
out and the
stuff. right
bartender's
there.
pissed.
One of those
The whole
impressionist
energy is
paintings.
awkward. And why'd it smell like
Got a
bird
little
hair?
fired up.
I got a little fired up with the guy, but he ran off before anything happened, so...
Oh, you got fired up?
Yeah? Does that not sound convincing enough?
Hold these. I know a place.
You stung.
It's a little out there. Easier if we fly.
And her car is cool. It's like some kind of anti-gravity. Makes everything else around her float or something. Guess I could see why that would be killer on the metabolism.
I actually thought you were taking us to sit on it.
Oh yeah, that would have been cool. Oh no, yeah, this is better because you can see it, and it looks like there's a couple up there already. So
Looks like there's a couple up there already.
All of this has been pretty overwhelming. You know, I don't get out often, and I think I really needed this, so thank you for bringing me out. I had a really great time.
Aw.
don't you worry about it, Robert Robertson.
Robert Robertson. What a name.
How do you know my name?
Oops.
What's going on?
Okay, I'll tell you. But only after you tell me how you ended up with a name like that.
Oh, you mean a name like Robert Robertson III?
The third? 3 times
Three
this happened?
times this happened.
There
of
was
course,
Grandpa
of
Bobby,
course.
then my dad, who I called Dad, but everyone else called Robbie, and then me, Robert, because I wanted to be taken seriously.
Family tradition.
In more ways than one. Gramps was the first Mecha Man. He died in the suit before I was born. Dad was killed fighting Shroud. That's when I took over. There was a little inheritance and the life insurance money.
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize.
Just your run-of-the-mill, sad superhero origin story. The family tradition, if there is one, is dying in that suit. Which I guess I don't have to worry about anymore. What is
My
it?
sad
I'm not
origin
quite
story.
drunk enough to share my origin story just yet. But remind me to tell you someday.
Definitely.
Oh, thank you so much for following, Drakenhunter. And again, thank you so much for telling me about the audio so that I could fix that. Can't believe I was sitting here for such a long
We
time.
can work with this.
Just silently laughing. Let's see. We're gonna go with kissing her.
No, this. I'm sorry if I gave the wrong impression.
Oh no,
It's my fault.
I'm so sorry. I totally misread that.
You didn't. I mean, you did. But I definitely. The way I went about things tonight. I'm sorry. It was all a little loose, a little unprofessional.
A little unprofessional, yeah.
I'm not
but
sure that applies to this.
I'm
but-
actually here on official business. How I know your name, the proposition I mentioned right before you spit in my mouth.
Still mortified about that.
It's fine. Do you remember a superhero named Trackstar?
Remember, of course, he's like family. That I haven't talked to in a while. But what about
I
him?
hope you're having a
I
good
work
night,
with him at
Drakenhunter.
SDN. He recommended you. Mentioned that he worked with your father.
If you could,
Yeah, he was the youngest member of the Brave Brigade, so
I would.
he was kind
I
of
would
my
love to
babysitter
hear
for a while.
about a
How's
victory
he
you've
doing?
had recently.
He's doing great. He's why I'm here.
If you wouldn't mind sharing.
Robert, I would like to make you an offer. In
Any
exchange
kind of
for
step
dispatching
forward
and
that
mentoring
you
some
might
of
have
our
had.
rookie heroes, SDN can make you
Anything,
Mecha
no matter how
Man
big it
again.
is. I
But
want to
this
hear it.
time with all the resources that a company as big as ours has at their disposal. No more paying out of pocket for repairs. Support staff, the whole shebang.
So this was like some sort of interview?
I was worried that you might
I know,
be
right?
Crazy?
unstable, damaged,
I think they
unfit,
get to pick their own
batshit,
names
dipshit,
because I
know,
don't think
whatever you wanna
anybody
call it.
else would think that that was a good superhero name.
It's a big investment. It'll take considerable time and money to get the suit repaired and the missing pieces replaced. Plenty of time to learn how to dispatch and level up some of the heroes on our roster. Your experience, your work ethic, your perspective, it's all invaluable. Share it, Robert.
Dispatching
You have a lot left to
heroes.
give.
Wait, so you want me to sit in an office and dispatch heroes?
That's
It is a
the
bit of an
idea.
odd
But
concept.
just until we get your suit put back together.
What's dispatching even mean?
Oh, right. I was supposed to test you at the bar. Here,
Oh,
The drunk people shouldn't be throwing things at drunk people.
noted.
Am I
almost lost it.
waiting or are you waiting? What's going
It
on?
was supposed to open up when I threw it to you. Well, okay, there. Pop it on. This is part of the assessment.
This
And
whole
don't move too much in
recruitment
there.
is very,
We're sitting on the edge of the billboard.
Very haphazard.
Greetings and welcome to this training simulation. We may
Recent
be
Victory
superheroes,
is joining a
but we're
writing
nothing
group,
without
starting job
SDN's
hunting,
real
and 2
hero,
months of HRT.
the dispatcher.
Wow, that is
So, dispatcher,
fantastic.
where do we start?
I'm so glad to hear that. That really does make me smile a lot. Getting to become
Well, well,
what
It
you've always
appears
wanted
we've
to
got
be.
our first call from a subscriber.
Congratulations on the 2 months of HRT. I hope it brings you happiness, I really do. So how is the writing group going? And do you have any good prospective jobs?
I saw some scary, suspicious men last night leaving the old movie theater.
You'll receive requirements to help you determine which heroes to send.
Alright, strike the devil's fortified base and defend yourself
Such an
against the
array
armed
of
foe.
brave heroes to choose from. How could you possibly pick just one? This graph will show you what a hero does well and not so well. A hero
this is
with
so
a knack for vigor
painfully-
and combat looks right for the job.
Painfully corporate.
That sounds like me.
Sounds like a job for me, Phenomenon. Again, I'm pretty sure they picked their own names because nobody would actually approve this.
Now that at least one hero is being dispatched,
Time to get to
a
work.
sound approach. I will now return to SDN.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
When a hero returns to SDN, they'll need some much-needed R&R. That stands for
Well,
rest
I hope
and
that you get that
relaxation.
job. And I hope that the writing group is able to help you express your creativity.
Don't forget to
going to
review
be-
your hero's performance. They won't be sent out again until you do.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, I'm pretty sure. And getting to write your innermost thoughts.
On
Pretty nice.
SDN's state-of-the-art graph, we
I find
Let's
a lot
see
of
how well
times
I
that
did after
expressing
responding to
how
that
I
caller's-
feel comes a lot
well-
easier when I'm writing it out, you know?
There's no such thing as a perfect fit. Use your intellect and
No
your
such
roster
thing as a
to your
perfect
advantage.
fit, huh? Well, you could have gotten that perfectly if you just sent somebody with.
The more that my skills align with the needs of the job,
More that my
the
skills
more
align with
likely
the
I
needs of the
am to
job,
succeed.
the more likely I am to succeed.
Organized criminals, often led by figurehead supervillains, are the scourge
All
of
right,
Southern
hideout is
California.
shut down.
We work tirelessly
Investigate the
to
dorm
root
room.
them out.
Potential villain hideout on the college campus. Oh no, it's Antifa. Oh. It's probably gonna need a lot of brains
Let's make history.
on that. Investigate and decode. Oh shit. Should have put more than one on there.
An excellent choice.
Exactly right.
One of your heroes needs you as their leader.
One of your heroes needs you.
heroes will look to you.
Let's see.
Make choices and follow where they lead.
Oh, they're really high in charisma, so let's do the jokes.
These choices need the right skill.
Opening is tasteful. Seems weird that you would send a bunch of
Convoy of
superheroes
Diablo's
for
goons
that.
are harrying the highway patrol.
What do I know?
As if traffic in this city was not bad
As if
enough.
traffic in the city wasn't bad enough.
And going places.
Alright.
Does SDN
Intercept.
offer paid time off to take vacations?
Of course. PTO accrues at a regular rate over time. Use it however
This
you like, as
banter
long as you discuss your schedule with your manager
painful.
well in advance.
What the fuck is a PTO?
And then he's just like, what the hell's PTO? Let's see. Intercept, so we need to be fast and we need to be angry and punch them. So yeah, I guess Phenomenon, Phenomeman, whatever his name is, would be good for
the
that.
diabolical supervillain El Diablo is attacking Los Angeles General.
We defend
no. It's one of my arch nemesis,
civilians.
El Diablo. That means the Diablo in Spanish.
Huh, he must have been using the convoy ambush as a distraction.
And to attack helpless hospital people. That craven bastard.
Send more than
Speaking
one.
of hospitals, did you know SDN offers a robust benefits package for all full-time employees?
That's phenomenal!
Yeah, well, let's do it.
Okay.
There's a giant monster attacking
Alright,
downtown!
giant monsters attacking.
Save us, SDN!
Draw the monster's attention.
Gladly. Oh, if these streets could talk.
SDN values work-life balance. When the bell rings, your shift will end very soon.
Shift will end very soon. Oh, better hurry up. 100%,
A
alright.
perfect dispatch. You are a natural.
Intercept the convoy.
Sometimes a hero
Pass through
can use
walls,
their
make an
talents
exit.
to tip the scales.
Walls
The
busted.
walls didn't stand a chance.
Alright, got it.
Oh god, no.
let's see.
Help us! We're being held hostage. Send help, please!
You can find suggestions on how to handle hostage situations on page 234 of SDN's Guide to Dispatching.
Man, I don't think I'm gonna be fast enough to get all of these. Himbo Omni-Man. I mean, you're not wrong. Let's see. Civilians have taken a hostage. You know what? I'm
Let
going
me
to send
balance the
Equilibrium, and I'm going to send him alone.
I need
Help Grandma across the street. Well, damn.
Let's dash.
Send you. Oh, that's not good. Stop, stop, stop. Oh, come on.
I'm speechless.
Oh, that's that one. Alright.
El Diablo's goons are running scared. We're right on the heels of his sidekick, El Diablito.
El Diablito.
Justice will prevail.
The smart choice.
You know what? Let's just
Flattery
cover
will get you
every single
everywhere.
bit.
I am on the way.
Alright.
SDN solves all problems, big and
No way I
small.
can fail
We
if I'm
never
maxed
ignore
out
the
on
people of the city, particularly the elderly.
Speaking of retirement, quick question, Phenomeman. Does SDN offer 401k matching?
Yes, but there are limitations.
Oh,
Your
God.
HR representative will have all the details.
Do they offer matching 401ks?
Effortless excellence.
Our shift is done now.
Well,
it is time
I think
for
overall
We're getting
I
it done without you, dispatcher.
Too
did
true.
okay on that one.
I'm going to enhance my break time with some of the snack offerings in our break room vending machines.
Great idea. Thank you again, dispatcher. I hope to be seeing a lot more of you. Goodbye for now, and
don't forget to be phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Did he just say phenomenal?
Yes, he did just say
That
phenomenal.
felt pretty natural to me. And that it's natural for me to end up mid-tier. That said, for a first time, it feels pretty...
Aw, she's so
Did I
cute.
drool on you?
I don't think so.
Well, you see why we thought of... Well, why Trackstar thought of you.
It makes sense, yeah.
Meet me at the SDN offices tomorrow. I'm not done saving you yet.
I hate how cinnamon rolly she is. It makes
is
me
there a
suspicious.
ladder, or-
Oh damn, she just left him up there. Oh, the puppy. He's a good boy.
Sorry I'm late.
Yeah, who's a good boy?
Were you a good boy?
He needs to be petted.
The folks at SDN are the best in the business, and we're striving to create a safer, stronger city every
I
single
met a nice lady.
The folks who live here do a lot.
She wants to help us out.
My god, that is a terribly sad setup. Wow. You know, I wonder if the reason he was so determined to keep that thing going is because it's the only thing he's got left of his dad. You and 51% of players threw alcohol at Flambe. Well, at least I know I was on the right side. You and 54% of players kissed Blazer. You and 56% of players pulled the goon back up. Your success rate in the fight with Toxic was 88%. Put me in the 60th percentile. Wow. Thanks. You and 20% of players attacked the reporter. Wow, I'm really surprised that was not higher. You and 39% of players dubbed Flambe sunglasses at night guy. Damn, I only performed moderately well in the tutorial shift? That sucks. Alright, next episode. Now that we're done with the tutorial chapter, let's actually start this. Why is your busted suit in the living room?
Dang it!
Like I said, I wonder if...
Practice.
Wow, that sucked.
Unexpected things happen every day.
Phenomenon! Can SDN help me
Can't
out
believe
with this? It's blocking the
this
driveway.
guy is...
You
The
can count
poster
on
man.
SDN to help lift the burdens life throws at us. Let SDN be your...
Yeah, like I said,
so
I wonder
you
if
can
the reason he holds on to that suit and he spent millions of dollars upkeeping it was that it's the only thing he has left of his dad,
She's
and he
definitely
misses
not
him a
making
lot
it
more
to
than
band
he
practice.
thinks, or than he likes to admit.
Wait, what's that?
Hmm?
Oh, who the hell is this
No,
guy?
just the commercial. It was weird.
Weird. Yeah, right. Phenomenal man. He's like a rock star.
Phenomenal man.
It's I'm joking, cause of the rock and the roll. Cool commercial. I'm a Famama fan, you might say. You could say.
Not a great actor.
He's not the best actor, though, which was important for that commercial to be less.
Which was important to that
weird.
commercial to be less.
He is the best actor. Well, acting when there's danger. I think if the whole world is a play, then he's still awesome.
Can't argue that.
Damn, fanboy.
God. Okay. Yep, that's not right. That is not right. That is, yep.
Just, okay, let me help you.
Oh, no,
with
no, not necessary. I'm sure
It's soaked. You nervous? Big job interview?
No, I mean, yes, but yes is more... My powers make everything wet, more. Water boy is how they call me, but yes, I am.
Oh god, not this guy again. Burnt off his eyebrows. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Now that your face is next to a side of my face, I see that I know you, of you. You're Mecha Man. You're dead, I thought.
Just on the inside.
You,
just on the
small,
inside.
Different
Same.
in person.
Same.
Never meet your heroes, kid.
Oh,
never meet your heroes, kid.
Oh, wow, Blazer, Juan, a real hero.
Oh, sorry, but I need him for something. Follow me. Take your clothes off.
What's happening right now?
We don't want too many people knowing you're Mecha Man. A lot of our dispatchers are former heroes, but it's better if you keep your identity a secret. We've had incidents in the past. Here. I remembered you being bigger. I was a little drunk. Listen, it's gonna be great.
I've never felt silly wearing this.
Until now.
Damn, from superhero uniform to office shirt.
It worked. Get dressed.
Gotta hurt.
I have somebody I need you to meet. Oh, sorry. Should I turn around? Or what do you... should I close my eyes, maybe? If that makes you more comfortable.
I don't mind.
It's fine, I don't mind.
Oh, yeah, no, it's sure.
I mean, don't stare at me straight in the eyes or anything, because that would be odd.
Yeah, I'll actually... Yeah, I'm just gonna... There.
It doesn't look like it, but I am flexing every muscle in my body right now.
Really?
Okay, well, you didn't have to say it like that.
Oof.
I want to say again, I'm sorry about last night.
Damn.
I regret the way I conducted myself. It was a mistake. A complicated mistake. I can, go into the details of those complications with you later.
Didn't feel like a mistake. At least not to me.
Well, that makes one of us.
Damn.
It was a nice night. Nothing more than that.
Yeah, I'd like to keep things professional.
Right, that's why you brought me to this conference room to strip down in front of you. Profesh.
Are you serious?
Oh, man.
Who locks a conference room? So, you two fuck or what?
We kissed, but it was very innocent.
Like cheek innocent or tip of your dick innocent?
Okay, stop. First of all, we did not kiss. You kissed me. Second of all, it's none of your freaking business.
I like her.
Oh,
She's funny.
Must've been a good one.
Robert, this is Invisigal. She is part of the Phoenix program. We take former supervillains, such as herself, and rehabilitate them to re-enter society to use their powers for... Are those my earrings?
Those my earrings.
Better on me.
Invisigal, this is Robert. He'll be your team's dispatcher.
Oh, washed up dad bod superhero with no superpowers. Can't wait.
His identity, all of this, that's staying between us. He's still Mecha Man, but that can't get out. And if it does, I'll know who it came from.
You think I want to tell people our dispatcher's a fucking loser?
Look, I'm here to help. It's what I do. You have a chance to turn things around, bring some good into the world, and I'll support you in whatever way possible. So that maybe, just maybe, by the end of all of this, helping people is what you do too.
Well, I'm wet. I see why you like him. Look at that trip. What does that look? Best Buy Fight Club? Fucking hot.
I fucking love her. She is fantastic.
We have a weekly ranking list for all the heroes in the company.
And she's at the bottom.
She called herself Invisibitch when she was a villain.
Called herself
We're trying to rebrand
Invisibitch.
her.
Yeah, I thought Invisigal felt kind of corny for her.
Oh yeah? The name was my idea. Just get your shirt on, Dad Bod.
SDN.
Oh my god, why would you
We're
put
not the
somebody
highest
that big in
profile
that
branch of
fucking
network,
office?
but we've got what makes the
That
real
seems
difference.
mean.
Great people. Some of them aren't even people, and they're still great.
Why is there a
One of
fursuiter
the
here?
3 copiers on this floor. Fax, scan, does literally everything. Documentation, one of the 3 Ds at SDN. There tends to be a healthy amount of paperwork. I used to call it triple Ds, but I was informed that had a different connotation.
3 Ds?
Dispatching, documentation, diversity is the 3rd. Not in terms of priority, of course. Yep, we're all about diversity. Lana works in the mailroom, from a different galaxy altogether. And then there's Galen, way back there, born with super hearing. He's from, I want to say... Florida, of course. Florida man over there. Hey, easy on the bath salts.
That was one guy.
Hey, speaking
Was
of
one guy.
bath, where is the,
Oh, need a bio break?
excuse me?
Restroom. I mean, it's right over there. Sorry. At work, I tend to get a little
Corny?
corporate, Dick. Meet me in the records room when you're done.
They
If you
lost the
get
budget
lost,
for a
look the
large
door that says
cubicle.
Records room.
I mean, maybe so, but damn. Seems a little bit mean to stuff him in there. I remember this part from the demo.
Hey, you this Robert people talking about? What's up, brother? My auntie named me Roy, but people call me Royd.
Oh yeah, we're gonna toilet bro fist.
All right. Good to meet you, bro.
Likewise.
I mean,
So
if he'd
Roy
asked,
is
I'd have held it for
like
him.
steroid?
Huh? Hell no, brother. No, cuz. Listen. Get 2 other guys here that go by the name Royd. So I think it's like, we go scrap, we go ground, I boss you up, and then, you got Royd. You know what I'm saying, bro? That's what I think. Hey, you think that's why they call me Roy?
Well, of
Like I'm
course,
on
they need to
steroids.
have a large place for large
They think I'm
pisses.
some kind of a juice head? They think I'm not natty, bro? They think Roy's not natty.
Nah, I'm just
No,
kidding.
I'm just kidding, man. Just making jokes about your name and the shitter.
Whatever.
Don't hurt the big
I don't
guy's
care.
feelings.
That's, yeah, Nokia is probably best. Nice meeting you, Royd, even if it was while we were both holding our dicks.
You one funny bugger. Mecha man.
Okay, so I was worried about your unwashed hand, but now I'm worried that everyone here knows who I am.
Nah, brother. It's Kapu. Need to know basis and Roy need to know. I don't want to come pick up your soup or fix them for the SDN.
Cool. You gonna wash before you do that?
Nah, bro. I never touch nothing. Just touch my pants and underwear only.
Just touch my
Even for
pants,
shake, I
underwear
just do
only.
like this.
Can you show me again? I don't think
Well,
I got
I love this dude too. He is a giant cinnamon roll.
Holy shit, who's this freckle-faced fuck?
Who's this
How are
freckle-faced
you?
That's an
fuck?
aggressive way to greet someone.
Look at this skinny latte prick. Your bones, kid. You here to whip these assholes into shape or what?
That's the idea.
Why is this happening?
What? It's a hug, not a hand job. Lighten up.
Be that as it may, I'm still confused.
Oh, right, because I'm old as shit. How about this? This jog your memory?
Trackstar? Holy shit!
Yeah, you fucker. Why are you accepting hugs from old men you don't know?
Are you accepting hugs from old men you don't
Chase
know?
around here, so keep it, you know.
Sure, right. Yeah, Chase.
It's been what, 10, 15 years?
Has it really been that long?
Yeah, I reached out to this little pissant when his dad passed. Then he got to ducking me like he owed me money.
I was in a weird place.
I understand, kid. It was tough on all of us, so I can't imagine what you went through.
Yeah, so what's up? You gonna tell me why you look like Black Einstein?
Tell me why you look like
Sorry.
Black Einstein.
I never noticed.
Fucker. It's the powers. I can move 50 times faster than the average person, but I didn't realize until it was too late. And I was aging 50 times faster when I used my powers. Nowadays, I'm moving slower than frozen piss to keep the old ticker from popping on me.
Then how old are you really?
I turned 39 a few months ago, but went to Dave & Buster's, shit was lit.
So I guess this means you're the one person I can't complain to about losing my suit.
You better not. I would resurrect then re-kill your fucking father
Resurrect
in front
and
of you
kill
if it
your
meant
fucking
being able to
father
use
in
my
front of
powers
you.
again.
Jesus, Chase.
Wow.
What? Obviously, I'd let Robert have one last I love you before I extinguished the light from his eyes.
Was he always like this?
Yes, actually.
We joke, we laugh, we suppress our trauma. All right, enough of this feeling shit.
We
Let's
joke,
introduce you to
we
your team of
laugh, we
losers.
suppress our trauma. I can get on with that.
Now, if I'm being honest, I thought and still think we should have canned these tunas months ago.
And you might get your wish, because if we don't see improvements soon, the whole program will be scrapped.
Cool. No pressure.
Sonar here was a Harvard graduate who
Will not shut the fuck up about being a Harvard graduate, like all Harvard
Will not
graduates.
shut the
who
fuck up.
also orchestrated some of the most effective Silicon Valley investment frauds in U.S. history.
Also, sometimes he transforms into a fucking bat monster that would eat you ass first after he emptied your pension plan.
Awesome. Like him.
Flambe.
Flambe.
Controls the fire
yay.
and flame, and his skin does not burn.
Right, you met him. Didn't you ever run in with him years back?
I did. Yeah.
So you know he's a certifiable dickhead.
Invisigal. who you
Invisigal.
turned
Love
herself in
her.
a few months ago and entered the program on the condition we didn't ask questions.
That's a little suspicious, no?
Suspicious? Really? Of a criminal that turns invisible and doesn't like to answer questions? What tipped you off, Sherlock?
Here we have coupé, which I recently learned is a French ballet term that means to cut, hence the knives.
That's very clever.
Yeah, but it sounds dumb to say, so everybody calls her Coop. She was an assassin for the mob, then went independent. Punch Up.
Carnival's strongman who made a deal with a sorceress. She gave him the strength of 10 men. His muscles grew, but his body shrunk.
He's got all the charm
that
and brains of a
sucks.
greasy bowling ball.
Malevola. Terrifying. She's got a magic sword, and she creates portals that allow her to teleport.
Somehow she's
Yeah,
still
I
late
like
for
her.
every
She's
fucking
awesome.
meeting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she does it on purpose. That's Golem. He is a construct.
A construct?
What the
Yeah.
hell?
Bunch of dirt and mud made sentient with magic. I think he's lonely.
Prism. Michigan born and raised. The power is weird.
Oh, she's cool.
Weaponizes light rays or some shit. A lot of this stuff is a guess.
Why does she dress like a pop star?
She's actually super talented.
Wait, so the Z team, my team, their Phoenix program?
That is correct.
Your own motley crew of dangerous fuck-ups.
We're not looking for miracles, but we'd love one if we could get it. Can you show him his desk?
Sure. What's that arm squeeze about?
You want one? Here.
Fuck off. This is you. Pretty sparse, but feel free to decorate.
Kind of joking you can only do with an old friend.
This computer's older than you look.
Damn, did you pull this shit
Wait,
from the 80s?
So we're doing this? I haven't even met the team yet.
We did the slideshow.
First of all, that wasn't a slideshow.
Look, we like to start slow. Most people don't make it past the first dispatch, and this is better for everybody's safety.
What do you mean, safety?
You'll be fine. And this here is our little slice of the Southland. Whenever there's a crisis in the area, we get a call, and guess who answers?
Me.
Exactly. Now put your headset on and introduce yourself to these pricks.
Hey, team. This is your dispatcher, Robert Robertson. I'm starting my first shift.
Tell me that's not your real first name, bitch. You can't be this shook on your first day. Come on.
Can we clear the channel, please? There's a lot of overlapping on this.
I saw him in his underwear.
Who? Roberto's son?
I saw him in his underwear.
He back in much?
No, but he's got a lot of bruises, which I'm into.
Again, please clear the channel.
Get it, your email.
Shut the fuck up! Let me remind you, these calls are fucking recorded for training fucking purposes. So keep the fucking line clear before we send your stupid fucking asses back to whatever fucking cell we pulled your stupid fucking asses out of. Alright?
Oh my god, I love him.
My son's balloon is stuck in a tree. Can you send someone?
Oh. Climb a 40-foot tall tree to retrieve a red balloon. Don't make the child cry. Well. Yeah, fuck it. Send the bat dude.
Yes.
Hopefully he isn't scary and makes the child cry.
Mr. Vanderstank is requesting a hero for a very important event.
Who's this Vanderstink guy?
Willem Vanderstink. Certified genius. Literally, he has a certificate.
You aren't a genius if you need a piece of paper that says you're a genius.
You're just jealous. This guy rules.
Send the pop star.
I'll take Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Dibs on Monday.
What are you guys talking about?
We're taking bets on when you'll quit.
Friday?
It is Friday.
I know.
Oh, there we
Pretty
go.
Good for our first day.
All right.
Okay, what's going on with Sonar?
Oh, that, yeah. He kind of randomly turns into a monster sometimes.
Randomly.
We are working on controlling it.
Damn, that sucks. Just randomly turns into a bat at times, huh? Alright.
What's this guy even famous for? Seemed like a loser to me.
Laugh all you want. Someday, my subconscious
Sonar
will
is
live on in a
moist
chip,
critical.
and your subconscious will be dead. Cringe.
Oh my god! My bidet is spraying shit everywhere!
My bidet is spraying shit everywhere. That, wow. I mean, usually you should probably call a plumber for that, but...
Let's see if I can do this.
Yes, super hacking works too.
Fuck yeah. Don't you mess with me.
Boom. Bidet no longer spraying shit. Thank you for calling Superheroes Are Us.
Get these idiots out of my bar before they destroy it. And don't send the flaming asshole.
Don't send the flaming asshole.
Mecha Man.
And he kicked Flambe's ass.
Okay. That little shit did not kick my ass.
You did though.
Yeah, I think I heard about that.
No, you didn't. Because it didn't happen, Bob. So we're all going to shut up about it. Yeah? Okay.
Alright. So you said punch up and the level up.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Time to fuck shit up. heroically.
Retrieve stolen boat.
Yes.
Send the hot
There's
girl.
a difference between a chop, a dice, and a mince. Hold out your hand. Let me show you.
So what was your read
People
on
have
this
nothing
Mecha
better to
Man
call
guy?
about. These calls would
Washed
get
up,
arrested if you
drinking
called
alone,
yourself 911.
a robot
You know
guy
what?
without
As
his
somebody
robot,
who
I
worked
guess.
in 911, I can
So,
guarantee
just a
you that that is
guy?
not the case.
Hear that,
I have been
Flambe?
dispatched for
You got
some
your ass kicked by
stupid
just
shit.
a guy.
All of you, shut the fuck up.
These idiots are fighting over the name Fight Man. Let's try giving them new names. Maybe that'll solve it. Suggest badass sounding names. Suggest dumbass sounding names. Suggest becoming a dynamic duo. Huh. You know what? Let's do this. Let's become a dynamic duo. Hell yeah.
Flambe, you're off route.
Flambe, you asshole. Oh, still got it. All
At
right.
least to report my success.
It's a 63%. I didn't think I was actually going to get it.
Fire at a local park has gotten out of control.
Flambe, you're
You
such a
started that
dick
fire.
bag.
No.
The fire that's burning 2 blocks from where you're standing. You didn't start that.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm on break, so how could I know?
Ugh, Flambe, stop fucking around. I've got enough problems without you making new ones.
Whatever, man.
You know what? Let's send the golem. He should be fireproof, right?
Okay.
And Flambe, I'm going to shave off the rest of your eyebrows because you're a dick.
Hey, someone's robbing the museum. I don't know what you do, man. I just started today.
Somebody's robbing the museum. I don't know what to do. I just started. Well, you know. Tell you what, let's send a leveler and yeah, Invisigal. They should be able to avoid the security sensors, huh?
Can't believe this shit's worth money.
Danny the Bone Zone Diaz here. Today's topic is all about SDN hiring criminals to protect us.
Alright, sounds like another job for you, Prism.
Fucker said I was pregnant. Hell no.
Oh shit. Prism's gonna fucking murder somebody. Alright, there we go. Blaze contained. Alright. Should I just do the hacking, or should I let them weave through the sensors? You know what? They've got a lot of mobility. They should be able to do that, right? I think so. There we go. Yeah.
Piece of cake. All sensors are back up, team.
Laser told me to show the ropes, so here we are.
Hey, a hero ranked up. Good job. Go check that hero database. Now navigate to the new Upgrade tab. Every rank up earns skill points. Use them for increasing stats.
Okay.
Use the plus icon next to a stat to spend a skill point. Once you confirm, you can't go back.
Let's see here. What am I lacking? She's pretty good all around. We could... up her mobility. She's the only one I could... Yeah, all the rest of them are rank 1.
We've encountered these thieves before.
Alright, Hawk Girl.
Graceful, but deadly.
On calls with +2 slots. Group gains +1 combat if placed in the first slot, and +1 durability if placed in the second. Really interesting. Okay. Well, that doesn't really help right now. Even in his bat form, he's still smarter than, like, any of you. A lot of this is compiling and cross-referencing, and also tracking down. Guessing we're gonna need intelligence.
Oh, this is perfect. My knives could use the fresh air. How thoughtful of you.
Yes, I am very thoughtful, thank you. Oh, hell. Come on. Okay, yes.
Oh, great job.
I'm feeling real good.
Alright. So she's really good at charisma and combat. I think I'm gonna up her intellect just so she can do better in those charisma debate things. Oh shit, did I just send Hawk Girl in alone? Damn it. That's not gonna go great for me. Oh, I still succeeded.
I think
no
that went
way.
Pretty well.
I was not expecting to succeed on that. Let's see. You're pretty good at combat, but your vigor is low. Your mobility could be higher. You know what? Let's double down on mobility for you.
Hey, Bobby. Here, William Vanderstink needs a security detail. Is it cool if I go? I've been wanting to pitch him some stuff I've been working on.
Yeah, pretty sure that's exactly what he's trying to avoid.
Alright. Send sonar, send literally anyone else. What do you think? What do you think? What should I do? What? I'm gonna send sonar.
Vanderstanker. It would mean a lot.
We're going to need you to protect Mr. Vanderstank from the Vanderstanker fan club.
Sure. Go ahead.
Thanks, man.
It's probably a bad idea. That's probably going to get me screwed up.
I didn't think I would until you said that.
Yeah, that was probably a bad idea. I sent him, but I'm probably going to regret that. Let's see. Need somebody to track down the pickpocket and encourage him to turn his life around. You know what?
Yeah.
Alright, I'll snitch. Just cut me a deal, okay?
Hideout is well guarded. Stealth and use of surroundings is key. Alright, Visigal. You can go. Let's see. He deserves the chance to shine. Well, let's hope he doesn't fuck it up for me. Let's see, Malevola, she can use portals and shit,
On
right?
it.
Let's do it.
I got this one. Seriously, don't worry about it. I'll be so fine. I promise.
How long was the last dispatcher here?
2 days. New record.
How the fuck did
Nerves
that?
are hitting sonar, and he's second-guessing his human meat alternative pitch. What the fuck? This is so gonna bite me in the ass no matter which of these I pick, isn't it? Make it relatable. Tell a story. Let's... You know what? Let's do it.
Make it relatable. You know, tell a story.
I've got a great story.
Oh, thank fuck.
Half man, half bat, all freak.
Half man, half bat, all free. I like it. I can only upgrade one of these, huh? Oh wait, no, when he changes, his intelligence and charisma reverse. So, no matter what I do, something on one side is going to get bigger. Let's see here. You know what? Let's make him have more vigor and have more intelligence or charisma when he is in his bat form. So that maybe he's not quite so scary. Okay, protect the art is vigor-based. Capture the thieves is either combat or mobility, which they have a lot of, or I can use Invisigirl to get the paintings out quietly, but I'm pretty sure she's going to steal them. Capture. Alright, there we go.
My tail's wagging, I swear.
Fuck yes.
They're so cute. Why are you so cute? Alright, Invisigal. Mobility is high, combat is high. Charisma is basically 0. Double down on that mobility. Escort him home. Give him a pep talk. Give him a pep talk.
Just, you know, give him a pep talk.
Oh, sure. I'll give him a pep talk, all right. Too bad there's no Grammy for this.
Granny's Donut.
Grannies, I got this.
Hold up, aren't you banned?
Yeah, and I gotta get unbanned.
Oh, come on. Don't do this to me. You're not gonna let me choose anybody else, are you?
Yeah, nice try, dude.
Damn
I'm
it.
not going anywhere.
Alright,
What's up,
fine.
I love looking at the beautiful homes in this city and knowing I'll never own one. Trust me.
Oh,
I
really?
can handle this a lot faster on my own.
Interesting.
Can I get ice down here, please?
What does that mean?
She's asking for a tap-in. We got access to security cams of SDN subscribers all over our territory.
Wow, really? Is that legal?
Don't
ask questions.
Just always make sure to read the fine print.
Oh, fuck. Brady's dead.
I didn't do this.
Right, I feel like you've said that a lot in your life. What happened?
This is how I found the place. The old guy, who I assume is Granny, was laying here when I walked in. Hey, what's your favorite donut?
Look, can you just focus? What, you got ADHD or something?
Yes, fucker. Is it that obvious?
Yes, fucker, it is.
Well, then answer the question. I don't want to sit here and fixate on it when we're supposed to be doing
Get some jelly-filled
whatever,
ones.
superhero shit.
A jelly donut, okay? I mean, I will eat anything if you pack enough jelly in it.
Oh my god.
You like that gush in your throat?
I fucking love her.
Yep, you got me. I love gobbling on hot, sloppy donuts. Love them from my mouth to my butt. How's it going? First day. Thanks for asking me that, so you could get all your funny jokes
Oh my
out.
god.
Now, can we maybe address the body in the room? What are you doing? You gonna poke it with a stick?
Check his pulse.
Granny's alive. Thank Christ. I didn't want to have to lip this guy.
Oh my god,
So,
that was so
can I go
funny.
A wellness check. It's a B&E. Let's figure out the perp is still there.
okay, Lieutenant. Fuck, I can't think of a character from a cop show.
Cool. Well, why don't you stay put and work on that while I get another camera up online?
Are you kidding? She is the
That
best
surprises
character.
me. You guys got similar energy. How do I switch cameras?
Just click the side here and you can cycle all the cameras in the building.
It's weird getting tech advice from an old person.
Bro, I'm not even 40 yet.
Weird hearing bro from an old person.
Lieutenant Dan? Is that a thing?
Yes, I'm
Sick
the
burn.
legless Vietnam vet from Forrest Gump. Sick burn.
Fuck you mean access denied?
Am I doing something wrong? Pushing that button just says access denied.
Ah, damn it. Sometimes people add extra security. They don't understand it just makes it harder for us to do our job.
Hey, what's taking so long? Are you sleeping or something? Or are you just
Time to be Hacker Man. Alright. Maybe that's his real superpower. He is Hacker Man.
Why does a donut
What? That's a
shop
good
even
question.
need extra
Where the
security?
hell? What are you hiding, Granny?
Hello?
Ugh.
I'm almost there.
This node represents a code to
Down,
use
left,
later.
left.
Remember it.
Remember that. Remember that. Up, down, left, left.
This node has an unknown code. Find the key.
Boom.
Alright, what do we
Oh,
got
what the
here?
hell is that?
Perp? Beanie? Who are you, Lieutenant Dan?
Hey, shut up for a sec. You're not alone. He's coming your way, armed. You need to disappear.
Why are you whispering, you idiot? You're in my ear.
You know, this seems kind of overkill-y for robbing a donut store.
God damn it, this bitch is a gusher.
Be careful.
I got
shit.
this, Lieutenant Dan. Never mind. Got any more great advice?
Disappear! Shit.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck.
This bitch! Invisigal, just hold him off while I find a way to help. I can use the overhead sprinklers to short out his
Alright,
blaster.
let's do it.
Come on, come on, come on. Got him.
Of course. Alright, so the first one is up, down. Second one is left, up. Up, down, left, up. Up, down, left, up. Boom. Damn, dude. Oh, damn, go Granny.
Granny? I don't think you know how to use that thing, so why don't you—
Shut the fuck up!
Oh, I'm one of the good guys.
You? Yeah, right. Don't fuck with me, okay?
Nobody fucks
Nobody
Granny.
fucks Granny! Nobody fucks with Granny!
Invisigal, stay calm.
Oh, fuck. Take out the thief or disarm Granny. Fuck, 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 fuck. Take out the thief.
Because the joke doesn't work, you just sound dumb.
Granny doesn't even know how to shoot that thing. Take out the thief first. He's the only one with his finger on the trigger.
You know what? It's my life on the line.
I'm done listening to you. That thing's gonna blow that man's arm off, and there's a whole building with me in it. Fuck off. I'm disarming the device.
No, Invisigal, that's a direct order.
Fuck.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck. Fuck. Invisigal, you there? Come in, Invisigal.
Fuck, this guy's heavy. Granny's clearly a fan of his own work. Oh, really wasn't expecting to see that. It's kind of caked up. So where's the perp, Lieutenant?
I think he must have had something else to do, because he left.
I mean, this is why you have insurance, right?
Jesus Christ, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
It is not a win, actually.
That was pretty good for first day. Sometimes people, you know, get electrical burns.
She disobeyed a direct order.
Well, that's the problem. This isn't the army, and these ain't soldiers. They're fucking supervillains.
Yeah, that is true.
Look, why don't you take a breather? We can debrief with Blazer in a bit. Here, there's vending machines in the break room. You look like you could use a snack.
Are you sure you're not actually 80 years old?
12 calls and 12 successes. Yes. I get an SDN pharmacy item and 1 random point. What the hell is an SDM pharmacy item? Are you telling me I get corporate drugs? Are you going to give me corporate Adderall? Make a hero out of resting. So it is. Awesome. Random point. Random point in intellect. Choose one hero to receive that. You know, should I make one of these people not as stupid, or should I double down on the people who are actually smart? I mean, I have a lot of really dumb fuckers here. But, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, the dumb people are really good at other stuff, and it's not like I'll always need somebody to be smart. You know what? I'm going to upgrade Coop. Whoa. I kind of love the Bat Boy. He is absolutely adorable.
What kind of superhero flinches? I didn't say which superhero. Chill out.
If you had people trying to kill you for the last 15 years, you'd be jumpy too.
What makes you think my life has been any different? You think growing up surrounded by a bunch of shitbag villains, I didn't need to watch my back?
Yeah, well, I guess you should do a better job picking your friends.
What the fuck?
You can't just go around. Ow, why does he keep screaming?
Oh, hello, Stromwolf.
Yeah, I know what Sonar means.
Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it.
She was just explaining you were, you know what? Never mind. Good shift.
This guy's weird.
Sternwolf.
Yeah, he is.
Sternwolf?
Look, I actually just came by to
Sternwolf.
celebrate the mission going well. Didn't mean to interrupt your little snack. What, do you need a pre-chewed like a little baby bird, bitch?
I told Chase what happened. That you disobeyed a direct order.
Tattled on me?
Tattled? Are you 5? I told him the truth.
Fucking snitched, that's what that is.
You trashed the place.
Oh, I'm a
Suspect got
snow
away,
leopard.
left the client hurt. You'd think when that
well,
guy signed up for SD and it result
it's based
in the
off of
back
my
his ballsack
persona.
getting scorched? Because they don't mention that in the
Is
commercial.
a hybrid
First of all,
creature,
the place was trashed when I got there. Second,
snow leopard
I'm sure
and
Granny
red
would take some
fox.
crispy nuts over losing his arm.
In the
As
fall
far as
and
the bad
winter,
guy,
I
fuck, shit happens.
have
The fact
snow
of the matter
leopard
is that shit didn't need
pattern,
to
and in
happen.
the
We could have had an
spring
outcome
and
when the client
summer I
doesn't get
have fox
fried and we
pattern.
get the perp if you had just fucking listened to me.
So,
You ask
right
her
now,
out,
snow leopard.
Then I can... What now? I make the calls, not you.
Here's some advice. You're right at home behind that desk because you're no hero. You were a nerd playing a video game in a suit your daddy built. Now you're a twitchy little
Oh my
bitch
God,
girl without
this
a
is,
shelf. A real hero puts their ass on the line. A real hero can't just press a button and make their problems disappear.
The suit isn't what made me a superhero. It was how I did my fucking job that made me Mecha Man. Based on
this
what
is
I saw
becoming
today, you wouldn't last a day as
cognitively
Mecha Man. Because there isn't a
overloading.
mech suit in the universe that'll keep you from being a selfish fucking asshole.
Hello, Bloodscar. How you doing? I have a feeling I'm about to get my ass kicked. Oh, fuck. Oh!
Feel
Yep.
bad. Good.
Yep.
Fuck you.
Getting my ass kicked.
You gonna eat those twinks?
That's not what the... You know what? Help yourself.
What do you think, chat? Are you gonna eat those twinks?
What happened to your nose?
Here we go.
You have a tissue hanging from your nose, Robert. I was trying to ignore it, but that became impossible when it started soaking in blood.
I get nosebleeds when it's this dry. The air in the office, it's on the dry side.
Is it on the dry side? I'll have facilities look into it. All right, boys. We're here to assess Robert's first shift, and aside from whatever happened here, I thought it was pretty good.
What?
Told you, Robbie.
I was watching on the monitor. The work you did dispatching. I don't think the Z team has ever had a better shift than that.
We just might need to confront the fact that it might be the best they can do. Especially the way the Granny thing went.
Yeah, now the Granny situation, that wasn't ideal. But I've seen so much worse with Invisigal.
Let's be real. She ain't gonna make it.
She's difficult to
No,
work
why
with.
do you guys...
Sure, but I see a lot of promise in her. Really. Even the other Z-teamers respect
Why
her.
do you guys
They're
hate
afraid of her.
Invisigirl so
I
much? She
should've
is
done
my
better.
favorite.
Maybe a couple wires got crossed toward the end there. I could have been.
I honestly
more
want to do a
clear
persona
with her.
combined
You
with the
crossed 0
species from
wires, okay?
D&D
She
or
crossed
Lord
them
of the
for you.
Rings.
Look, Robert, you should be proud. The
I mean, there
bar
are a
is
lot of
very low with
species
this
to
group.
consider.
It's not low for me. Look,
Draken
I like
Hunter,
to make a
yes
joke
to
and keep things
twinks.
light as much as the next person. But when it
I mean,
comes
you
to
gotta-
work, I'm not fucking around here.
You gotta eat the
If you
twinks.
want the
Sometimes
Phoenix
they get all
program to
nice and cream
survive,
filled.
The bar needs to go up.
And how would we do that?
By treating the Z team like what they are, a bunch of villains. And leading a supervillain team takes a different approach than a superhero team. I need to be around them. I need them to see I'm all in, and they need to match that energy.
Some tough love.
The only kind I know. And based on what I've seen, the only version they'll respond to. I'm not saying everyone will make it. They won't. I'm not saying it won't get spicy. It will. But when it does, I also need you to trust me to handle it. I don't want you stepping in. They need to respect
Oh,
me.
get
even
your
if I don't
mind
have
out of the
powers.
gutter. I would never say anything that was dirty.
Okay, we'll do it your way. Monday, we'll get them in a room and introduce them to their new supervillain leader.
I can't promise it'll work. I can only promise that I'll do my best.
No fucking way it's gonna work. But it'll be way more fun to watch.
Chase, some optimism, please.
God damn it. Yeah, I also promise to do my best.
I love Black Einstein. He is so funny.
Hey, kid.
What?
What are you doing?
Yeah. No. I did this. It's weird because I saw this lady, smiling lady.
God, it
person
wasn't even
put a
jelly
donut on
filled.
your desk earlier, previously, and it was nicely on a napkin. But then she comes back and she just crazy, like evil mode, and smash the same donut.
Oceanside beachfront in Alaska. Well, okay.
We'll clean it.
We can talk later.
No,
I might be into it.
Yes, see, I'm SDN's newest. He
Hero?
helpful janitor.
Okay. Cool.
So it's my pleasure, and it's my job, which you helped me get.
Aw,
So
he's so
thank you.
cute.
Thank you so much.
Happy to help.
It's Friday. I'm not gonna ask. You headed out?
Oh, yeah. Great. Thanks, kid.
Welcome to the team, Waterboy.
Yeah, welcome to you. You too.
Oh my god.
Hey, I want you to know.
I can't believe his
fixing your
superpower
suit
is
not
that he
contingent on
vomits
you
up
fixing the
water.
Z-team.
That is,
I wouldn't do that to you.
as far as genetic lotteries
But don't
go,
worry
that's
about that.
basically
I'm just
losing.
really glad you're here, Robert. I think we're going to do some great things together.
Hey, look, I really appreciate you setting this up. It's exactly what I need right now, and it'll get me that much more excited to be back out there.
Actually, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. It's a little awkward to mention, but since the other night...
The Nama Man.
Blazer. Are you ready to go?
Oh, shit.
Who is this? I thought I'd cataloged all of your work companions.
Robert, this is my boyfriend, Nama Man. This is our new dispatcher I was telling you about. Robert?
The third Robert Robertson, leader of the Phoenixes. Blonde Blazer told me about you.
Really? Did she, say, I don't know, what came up in that talk?
She said you're a
Damn.
capable, honorable man that truly cares for others.
Why are you so
Why are
small?
you so small?
Hey, come on. You gotta stop asking people that.
The way you spoke of him made him sound impressive. I only seek to understand. I apologize. How was his first day? Was his lack of size and
This guy is such a douchebag.
No, he was great. It was great. It was a great first day.
That is phenomenal. We should celebrate. Blonde Blazer and I have reservations in Tokyo at a restaurant where the owner dreams of sushi. You should join us. I'm sure they could accommodate one more, especially a special occasion like this.
Actually, I gotta get home to my dog. He's very needy.
Oh, of course. And to be responsible for another life is a beautiful thing, even if that life is a dog life.
Yeah, right.
If Waterboy wasn't X-Man, he'd be one of those mutants
nice
God
to meet
really
you,
wanted to
Third Robert
ruin.
Robertson.
I know, right?
A pleasure was...
Now, could you step back? The
Congratulations,
power of my
you
launch has been
you
known
unlocked a
to stun
superpower,
small
but it's the
beings.
worst superpower you could possibly have. Maybe not the worst, but it's definitely down there. It's a good song. You and 93% of players bro-fisted Royd. You see? You see? Doesn't matter where you are. You have to bro-fist. You and 76% of players covered for Invisigal for punching you. You and 36% of players enjoy jelly-filled donuts. You and 74% of players decided not to ask Blazer out, and you and 90% of players said no to dinner with Phenomenon and Blazer. Who the hell would say yes to that awkward shit? That would have been so bad. At least he's not Forget-Me-Not, yeah. Yeah, that dude, that dude kind of got screwed over, didn't he? You and 37% of players let Sonar meet Vanderstank, and it went great. And you and 40% of players convinced the Fight Men to form a crime-fighting duo, the Fight Men. Wow. Your most sent hero was Prism. Your overall call success rate is in the first percentile. I mean, of course it is. I'm amazing. You know what? I want to go and continue on because I am having a great time. What system? I'm playing on my Stream Deck, or my Steam Deck, actually. And I've just got it kind of capture carded into my laptop. It helps keep my laptop from needing to overwork since I'm playing it on a different system. But it still lets me stay mobile, so maybe I can do this while I'm still out at work.
Whoa, 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 hey, what are you doing?
Brother, your warranty already void.
How can you just toss it around like that?
No worries, I'm pretty strong.
That's not what I'm saying.
How you got this thing inside your apartment anyways? Oh, super heavy, the bugger.
I disassembled it and took it in little pieces, which is what I thought you'd be doing.
And how long did that take you?
3 or... No, it was 4 days.
I really like
I get 20 minutes.
It just feels like you could...
That dude reminds me of Maui from Moana, doesn't
my
he?
whole fucking life.
Every time I walk in this place, I get sad. That not happen to you? No one ever tell you that? or no one never come over.
That's right.
It's called minimalism. It's a lifestyle.
Brother, it is your life, but it's no kind of style. This the type
Steam
of
Deck
apartment you
can
see
act as
when
an
the detective peek
exterior
the door
game
in,
system
you
for
know, find the
laptops. I mean,
flashlight,
not
serial
specifically,
killer
no.
All right, I get it. Can we?
That's
focus
why I
on-
needed a
Astro
capture
Pulse.
card,
Lost in the blast while I was
but
flying.
it helps
No
take the
clue
strain
where it
off of
landed.
my laptop
I
to
spent a
play
couple
it
weeks
on
after
this
it
and
happened trying
then
to track it down.
just capture card it into my
That's the only
laptop
piece of
system
the
and
suit
capture
my dad
it.
didn't have schematics for. That gonna be a problem?
Mine not. We figure them out.
How'd you know about the Astro Pulse?
Oh, brother, everybody know about the Pulse. It's actually two wicked pieces of tech, huh? First you get the Astro Pulse, this genius design energy cell. But inside them, you get the stellar core.
Can I help?
No, brother. You good. What's crazy is when you mix the control fusion reactions with the plasma containment. Oh, brother. You got a core one super crazy energized plasma state. Unreal stuffs. Like you caught one small star and chop them in a
Sounds
bottle.
pretty important.
Genius.
So that sounds pretty fucking important, Royd. You said we're good.
The Astro Pulse super awesome, but we'll be all right. Whew. Man, maybe we go for lighter metals this time, huh? You know, I actually met your dad one time, long time ago. First time I come mainland. He'll catch me trying to steal stuff from Radio Shack. Then we talk tech stuff for like a whole hour. Then he would take me
And
to
he
jail.
went and took me to
That's
jail.
how I ended up in a Phoenix program.
That's longer than any conversation I ever had with him.
Bombas.
He's a giant cinnamon roll.
Guess when you're building Astro Pulses, there's not much time for talking to your son.
Not so sure about that.
I don't understand.
You see, there's gearheads, then there's science nerds. One kind garage, the other kind lab, you know. Your father, one good gearhead, but I just can't see how he'll make something like the Pulse. You know, science nerd.
How would you know this from talking to him once?
'Cause I'm both. Sure, I'm the one gonna fix your suit.
Damn, dude. So not only is he massive and can basically lift that suit, but he's also a super smart tech nerd.
We gonna make this one the Robert
That
suit.
is fucking awesome.
This is incredible, Royd.
I hope you like it, brother.
Royd, I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you is what I need to say. This is unreal.
We make the man Mecca again.
Hell yeah.
Kobe.
Let it go.
I think he did that on purpose. Hey, Chase, I need a favor.
Favor? It's not enough of a favor getting you this job working with those stupid-ass pieces of... Oh, who's this, huh? Who's this little guy?
His name's Beef, and he's the favor. You mind keeping an eye out? I feel bad leaving him at home, but I don't want anything happening to him.
Robert, I would literally let everyone here melt in eternal hell, including you, before anything happens to this dog.
What's your name, little guy?
Oh my god, he's adorable.
Oh, no,
and
I refuse
I'm
to believe that's what he sounds
100% on his side.
Robert, you got a sec?
Sure, yeah.
Definitely that meme. I only just met him, but I would, if anything happened to him, I would kill myself and then
What's up?
everybody in this room.
About the other day with Phenomenon.
Oh, yeah. How's dinner?
Oh, it was awkward. It's why I didn't want you to come.
Oof.
Phenomenon and I broke up.
Over Tokyo Dream Sushi?
Yeah. It's just... the timing felt right. I don't
Is
know.
it because he's a
Sometimes
giant
you just
douchebag?
It felt a little impulsive, but maybe it was a long time coming.
Hey, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Aw.
It is what it is. But that's actually not what I wanted to talk to you about. I was thinking about it over the weekend, and I'm going to cut someone from the Z team. Or you are, rather. Maybe I'm just looking to shake things up all over the place. Create a sense of urgency.
Well, I think it'll scare them.
Is that a bad thing?
Maybe. Maybe not. Tough to say. I don't know them yet.
The reality is, cutting someone towards the bottom of the leaderboards will show everyone we're serious.
I'll let the team know.
Oh, I already did.
I suppose it'll be an interesting shift.
This is going to go... My god, I have to get Invisigal up. I cannot let her be the one cut.
Bad. Those three ain't shit.
Did you come over here to tell me that? Because it's almost exactly the information a leaderboard gives you.
Actually, smartass, I came over to tell you that one of your team members is in need of assistance.
Sonar, you alright? Why are you sending a distress call when you haven't left the building?
Could you send a locksmith downstairs?
What happened?
Coop seduced me.
No. I said, hey, want to see something cool, and then handcuffed you to a squat rack.
But you said it with a hot voice, so I assumed you meant boobs.
Okay, team, I know Blazer mentioned someone's getting cut, but don't let that distract you from doing a good job out there. That's what you'll be judged on.
What a bunch of bullshit.
Sorry, what's bullshit?
Judgy bullshit.
How is that?
Yeah, only God can judge me.
Okay, false. I'm judging you right now.
Bullshit, because it's not like you gotta deal with this kind of bullshit.
Also false. Of course I'm being judged along with the rest of you.
Do you not know what a job
Do you not
is?
know what a job is? What the hell is going on?
I've had real jobs, dude. How is this
All right.
Thank you for the
Just
follow.
ignore the pressure
Your
and
favorite
everything else.
test.
You don't
Well,
need
yes,
first,
you are my
just
favorite
can't be
test. I
last.
have to agree with that.
What about me?
Can somebody go down to the gym and help Bat Boner?
Who?
Don't ask.
Losing feeling in my hand. Not in a fun, kinky way.
How the hell did you get yourself in that situation, that guy?
There was an altercation with my team and a monster down at the beach, and there's some debris of... There's body parts left behind.
I know, Bat Boner. Alright, remove giant rust monster remains from the beach, load the giant monster parts into secure waste collection, and large media and civvy presence. So I have to do all this and look good while doing it. Damn it. Alright, send this guy.
I think we can pull this off.
Oh my god, I'm going to kill you. Alright, fine.
What the fuck, dude?
Punch
Wow.
up, hate a
Betrayed by a
kid.
fellow degenerate.
Shitty street kids love me. I'm like their king.
Literally have the biggest amount of mobility. Like, you should not be unable to outrun it.
What's the matter, kid? Can't climb fire escapes? Idiot.
Uh-huh. You know, this is really fucking immature, guys.
Serves them right. You let your guard down, you perish.
That's a pretty fucked way to live.
Emphasis on live.
Oh my god.
Oh shit.
You do realize that sabotaging each other isn't going to guarantee you a spot
Oh,
on the
I
team,
still pulled it off.
idiots. Okay, sure.
Yes.
We can call that a success.
Okay. We'll be S tier in no time. You guys behave in chat. God. Oh, you know what? You don't need to be any more intelligent. Let's make you faster, though. You can be dumb and strong and fast.
There's a drug deal happening at the tourist airport right now. I think you should send the bad guy. He seems right for the job.
You better start being a good girl, Tess, or I'll pull your leash.
Drug bust? Fuck yeah. My two favorite things. Drugs and
Oh my god, you people are irritating me.
Damn, seeing all my followers swarm together like this, it's intimidating.
What? Surprise drops are good for a brand.
Yes, I do promise. You're not supposed to be encouraging her.
Works every time.
Damn it, Bloodscar.
So, Turtle fans moved in, flipped a grill, started a fight, and ruined a bunch of hot dogs.
Alright. Fine, we'll send the flaming asshole and...
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay.
Would everybody please stay in your lanes?
Alright, picked it up.
I'll, be right back. Just gotta go powder my
Have unleashed the horde.
cocaine.
Dude, you promised me you were gonna cut back.
I will, right after this bump. And like 4 more bumps.
Been a while since I had to call in a coke-related favor, but this shit was worth it for sure.
Ugh,
Guys.
fuck you.
Alright, I'm not really one for corporate rules, but let's not do cocaine on shift. You can do cocaine after your shift. Oh. Well, you know, that is true. Oh my god, you people, I'm going to beat you in the head.
Nobody sabotages me except me. That's more of an existential thing.
Why get in the pot in the first place?
I don't want to talk
Oh,
about
this was all your fault. Why would you drop into a tank to begin with?
Got you. What the fuck did you do?
It'll be fine.
I'm drowning in here.
Shit.
Still got it.
Yeah, just take your fucking time.
Fuck that up. Alright, the key is left, down, and down.
Drowning in a sensory deprivation tank is not the kind of wet I like to be, Robert.
My god, you people are irritating the hell out of me.
I'd be impressed by this if I wasn't in ever-increasing pain.
With ears that big, he should be wearing protection.
commission! Wait, that didn't sound right.
We followed the drug traffickers to their base near the refinery. Let's shut them down for good.
Do what you want on your own time, on company time, it's different. Exactly. Like, it's not too much to ask that you do your cocaine after you go home, right? No, that's not irritating. That'll just make me purr. I mean, lots of firepower. Be prepared for a lot of firepower, too.
Close your eyes. You're not gonna like what you see anyway.
Since all of you assholes were just busy sabotaging each other.
I'll behave. Maybe.
God.
Fuck!
Come on.
Yeah, I'm just like off my game today.
I didn't know dogs could be so huge and menacing. He might have rabies. Animal control guy wasn't sure.
I've evaded capture by 7 foreign agencies. I can evade a fucking dog.
Just wait till you get home to do your cocaine is a legendary quote. Well, thank you.
Oh shit.
Alright, alright. Here
Did
we
I do
go.
that right?
Talking about a work-life balance. Well, yes. Like I said, I'm not really one for corporate rules, but we need to keep the cocaine out of the workplace.
Hey, my grandma just got scammed by someone claiming they work for you guys. She gave them her credit card numbers, social security numbers, all the bad numbers.
And of course, the ones I'm left with are the people who are as dumb as rocks. Damn it. Okay. Now...
On it.
Bye.
Come on, guys. Don't sabotage each other this time. Just once. Just once. Do your coke at home like a responsible adult. Yes, exactly. Alright, 100%. There we go. This is what happens when you guys don't just sabotage each other.
We don't work on
This
commission.
is great. Let's keep the shit up. Oh. Double down on your charisma. What, you didn't like me coming to your house and starting an IV on you?
Time to freak some fuckers out.
You got someone that can figure out how to stop a landslide?
Stand aside.
As hot and threatening as that sounds, I'm not going anywhere. We're tied for the bottom. With fucking Invisigal.
Oh, you guys are gonna fuck me, aren't you?
Beberto, my boy, excellent choice. First
hate
of
you
many
guys
we
so
could make
much.
together.
Sonar pushed me into a pool during the water aerobics class. They refused to leave. I hate the water and old people.
Worth it. Next time, don't promise a man boobs.
No one promised you anything.
Backstroke away. You know what? Yeah, backstroke away. Just run away from the old people.
That was nothing. You should really see my butterfly stroke.
What happened?
She's fine. Just walked into my sword with her face a little bit.
I don't believe in punching women, but I do believe in punching demons.
God, I hate you guys.
Yeah, try it.
You're such dicks. Oh yes, we live close to each other. Bloodscar is part of my in-person D&D group. Or Sturmwolf, rather, is part of my in-person D&D group.
You look, different.
Recall with less than 2 slots, certain slots may... With more than 2 slots, certain slots may... Okay, okay.
Anybody tries to mess with me, it's gonna get sludged. I'll let you figure out what you think that means.
Alright, hacking a scammer. I love scamming scammers.
Alright, let's see where this asshole is. Warmer. Okay, not over here.
Oh wait. Oh. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I screwed this up.
Nearly there.
Damn it.
A Vanco Cybertrain with precious cargo aboard is minutes away from colliding with the stopped freight at the station.
Yeah, all right.
Ah, excellent choice. You know, given my place on the leaderboard and all.
Fucking hell.
That works.
Surprisingly, still doing a fairly decent job, despite the fact that these guys are being asses to each other. Yes, and I thank you for it, Stormwolf. It's very, very nice to have friends who like to support. Especially since you guys really didn't have to, but I really do appreciate it. Alright, let's turn up your intellect. Yes. Double down on your crap.
Everybody should step back.
They keep trying to touch me with their weird fucking clammy hands.
Oh my god.
Maybe those will keep her busy for a while.
Led her into a cult? That is so mean. Why would you do that? Yeah, you know what? Let's play the part. Go with it. Oh shit. Damn it.
Ugh, I need a shower. A long one.
Shit.
And here I thought I was getting rusty.
Wow, you're on fire today.
Oh, this?
Hate him so much.
Warming up.
If there was anybody I was going to drop from the team, it would be him. Save the mascot in peril. 30%. Awesome. Holy crap. No way.
Oh, I'ma stay winning.
Double down on your vigor. Really? You've never played B&D? Oh, you left for a bit? All of the villains that I'm sending on all of these runs are sabotaging each other and pissing me off. That's unfortunate. It's a lot of fun. You should definitely find a group to play with. There are a lot of online groups.
Burglar spotted, headed towards the alley on Street.
I'll handle this.
Oh, come on. Don't. Don't do this.
Ooh, sorry, darling.
You're going
Don't
to
feel
screw
like
me
it.
over. God damn it.
Stay out of my way.
Fuck off.
What are you doing, Invisigal?
Not getting cut?
It's like you said, the way to win this leaderboard
Board games to not lose, right?
Yeah, that's not what I said.
I'm pretty sure that's what you said.
Oh, come on, don't. Bitch.
Yeah, so the perp that just ran by was lightning struck. This is now the second time that you let him get away.
No shit. That's crazy. Oh, chill out!
I'd normally say cut her, but the
Right?
way things are going, I'd cut the whole damn team. You need a reset, Robbie.
All Z team back to base and in the conference room in 20 minutes.
And screw you guys. The backseat rogues are a lot of fun. Stealthy kitties.
Anyone else think this is a waste of time?
Yeah, I know.
What are we doing? What the fuck is the point of
I'd rather be somewhere else.
I had 1,000 better things to do. There is so
Alright, look, I don't care what anybody says, I'm letting go of Flambe. Fuck that guy.
Can everybody take a seat so we can get started? Hey, can I get your attention, please? I would like to get started.
Oh, looks like this motherfucker got the power of light.
Oh, Bobby boy, watch where you're going, huh?
Oh, serves you right.
Hey. I understand you're big, but you need to be considerate of the people around you.
You in trouble?
Have a seat.
I'll sit on the floor.
Suit yourself.
What's going on?
Hmm? Oh, I offered him a seat.
So we getting this party started?
Yeah, what's this shit about? Let's go. Come on. Fucking wasting my time. Let's go.
Okay. As you know, by the end of today, one of you will be cut from the Z team.
This is bullshit.
Yeah, you said that already.
Cut me from a job I didn't want in the first place.
Miss Blazer, maybe if you gave us a dispatcher who knew what they were doing, you wouldn't have to throw no one out.
Hey,
Nicki
Nicki
Mirage.
Mirage, I'm standing right here. You can talk to me.
I wasn't talking to you, bitch. Which weak-ass superhero team did you come from? Fucking Geek Squad?
Doesn't matter where I'm from, Cardi C. What matters is I'm here to figure out who stays and who
Lady
goes.
Yeah, chill out, lady. Let the man talk.
Okay, whoa. You talking shit, you hipster motherfucker? Over here looking like Mumford fucked all his sons.
That was funny. See? We're just busting balls.
Keep talking. You won't have your tiny inbred balls left to bust.
Ask next time, or there won't be a next time.
Don't threaten me, you butter knife bitch.
Okay, I'll make this quick. Most people will look around this room and see a bunch of villains. Not even the super kind, just plain ass, run-of-the-mill, vanilla fucking villains. But that's not what I see. 'Cause lucky for you, I'm not most people. When I look around this room, what I see is...
Did you not plan this ahead of time?
fear.
Got there in the end.
You're afraid you're gonna fuck it up again. Like the last time someone gave you a shot, and the time before that, and the time before that. You're afraid of letting people down again. You're afraid of letting yourself down. If you want this time to be different than those other times, I'm here to help. You're all part of the Phoenix program. Any of you know what a Phoenix is?
Ooh, city
The sweltering ball sack of America.
Nah, if Florida's the dick, then Louisiana's gotta be the ball sack. Just, position.
The Phoenix,
sorry,
according to legend, is a beautiful bird of prey that was so tired of its immortality, it tricked the sun god into dropping a spark on its nest to set it ablaze, burning it to shit. But instead of dying, the Phoenix emerged from ash, reborn. All of you in this room are Phoenixes, and it's obvious what that means. But for you dumb ones, I'll spell it out. The Phoenix symbolizes redemption. It's what you're here for. It's what connects everyone in this room. To burn up who you were, to become who you were meant to be.
Phoenix is also a lame-ass band my lame-ass roommate
I like
listens
that
to.
band. You're late.
I like that band.
You would. What are you talking about? I was here the whole time. I turned invisible, genius, remember?
Great. Then you know we're cutting someone, and you, Miss Hot Topic Sale, are at the bottom of the leaderboards. Have a better second shift.
Fuck, I need this job.
What for, coupe? We all know you'll just be working the roulette wheel.
That's a croupier, you idiot.
The fuck's a croupier?
These guys' banter really kill me.
Great speech back there, Robert.
Thanks.
All right, everyone, you heard the man. Get out there and do some stellar dispatching.
Alright, let's try to not fuck this up again. Arsenal shopper?
My client requires protection while he does some shopping.
I remember this man, and he's right to be paranoid. Secret police hired me 3 years ago to kill him. He pissed off the wrong dictator, who shall remain nameless.
Sure.
Solid. I love rock climbing.
What?
They're handsy.
I love rock climbers, they're handsy.
Hey, busy. I just got Robert's joke.
What joke?
Offered me a seat. I just got it. That was funny.
Bro, that was like 3 hours ago.
Alright, 77%, let's do it.
All right, well done. That right there is Phoenix material.
So you could be a little faster though. There we go. Oh, the whole Blood Hunter class itself is a bit convoluted, to be honest, but nah, there's no reason to be lost or confused. It's very simple once you get into it. D&D's a lot of fun, and honestly, for your first time, playing a Tabaxi Rogue would not be a bad choice. They're not convoluted classes and very sneaky and easy. And then you get to stab people right in the butt when they're not looking.
Some bitch just cut me in line at the Utopia concert. I've been here for 12 fucking hours.
Utopia's a hack.
I like her.
Stay fat, bitch. You've got super hearing and you use it to listen to a girl who knows 4 chords and can't write a song to save her life.
Say what you want. It's catchy.
Unbelievable.
Well, Tess, I wasn't saying to go with the lycanthropy thing, but just playing a Tabaxi Rogue is simple. And then once you learn the basic rules of the game, then you can go on to add all of those more extreme rules onto your character, you know? I would normally send Prism because she's really great at talking things out, but she was also...
Let me at him. Bobby, buddy, you made an excellent choice. The only right choice, I'd say.
Yo, Mal, what kind of music you got in your heavy rotation right now?
You know, honestly, it's a lot of ska, but I had like a really big techno yodeling phase recently too.
Dang.
a really big
Anything good you'd recommend?
Do you
techno
like the sensation of your ears bleeding?
yodeling phase.
I'm good.
All right, all for me.
You know, I'm kind of interested. I want to hear what techno yodeling is.
big top style.
Alright. You still don't need to be any smarter, dude. Just get better at the physical shit.
freak.
Gotta like them freaks.
I think there's some kind of cult recruiting outside my store. They're creeping everyone out.
Oh my god, I should send... Yes, I'm gonna send Malevola again.
Yeah.
Heading over.
Yeah, this cult is definitely on the going to hell list.
There's a bunch of men in the basement of the Giga Burger for some kind of fight club. I don't know how they got here, but they need to go.
There's been fighting tourneys ever since the first chimp made a fist. You're crazy if you think you can shut this down.
Ah, supporters of Chart. Yeah, I know just what to say. I will have them running for the hills in no time.
Always send the demon to break up the cult. Oh, Tess, the rogue is the class. A thief or assassin is the subclass under the rogue class. Basically, the class is an overarching archetype, and then the subclass is what you specialize as. So, a thief would specialize in being all sneaky and stealing stuff and breaking into things, and then an assassin basically adds more dice until nothing can stand in your way once you shoot them in the ass.
My client requires protection at lunch with the governor of California.
But he's still alive. Are you going soft on us, Coop?
Please. They couldn't pay, so I canceled the job. No cash, no kill. So far, SDN's always paid on time and in full, so as long as the check's clear, I will kill or protect as they see fit.
I thought they didn't let us kill people around here.
As they see fit.
What's up, big guy?
Hey, what's up, little lady?
I feel like I need to specialize you somewhere. Or maybe I just make you more well-rounded. Kind of good to just slot in when I need some extra things. Yes, there's no reason to feel like we're ganging up on you, just explaining. And there's no reason to be sorry. One of the things I love to do the most is teach new people how to play.
Word on the street is the tourney just relocated.
Ooh, 100%. There we go. And 100%. There we go.
How'd you manage this one?
I don't want to talk about it.
I've learned from my sources that the next tournament will be held at the refinery in 1 hour.
Let's see, Invisigal, what should we do with you? Well, there's no need to apologize for any mistakes, because you're not making mistakes. You're learning, and asking questions is the best way to learn. So you're not making any mistakes here now, are you? I'm gonna up your combat. Let's see, fight in the tournament or shut down the tournament? Shit, what should we do?
Let's learn to fly. Well, officially. Legally. Your flight-capable heroes need a flight license.
See ya.
Let's see, shut down the tournament or fight in it? What do you guys think?
Come on, Robert, send me in to compete. I'll win so hard. We'll bankrupt every bookie in Torrance.
Cool. You think the SDN can be bribed? Maybe this whole leaderboard thing goes away.
Bribes? Doubtful. But how do you think they feel about menacing threats?
No.
Desperate fucks.
My client requires protection at the Torrance Pier.
Why am I spending this entire shift protecting you?
Ready as ever. I think I'm liking this benevolent devil vibe.
What?
This is our 25th time being paired together.
Yeah, but who's counting?
I am.
Oh, yeah. I guess so.
Okay.
You got good taste.
Yo, Flambe! Well, your position at the top of the leaderboard.
Don't be jealous.
I took a little peek at your file. Apparently you've contained more fires than anyone else on the team.
I'm like a psychic, man. I can sense what they're going to be before they happen.
Listen, there's a lot of potential here for a good housing insurance scheme. You just need a middleman.
Well, when you have a +5 to erection, it makes your ability to charm your way out of things a lot easier.
Ugh, beautiful.
Yeah, I follow.
Damn it, why don't you want to train? Alright, there we go.
That's how it feels to be alive, baby. I'm sending this belt to me mother. She's gonna put it up in her fucking fridge.
Just gonna put it up on her fucking fridge. I mean, you do have a point. When somebody is swinging an axe and their erection at you while running and screaming, you might rethink fighting them.
Help! I am at the Torrance Bank and there's these guys with masks and guns.
Visigal, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, I swear to God.
Yep, on it. I may not be everyone's taste, but I am a lot of people's fetish. Like a lot? Too many.
I already tangled with this dickwad once. Send someone else.
May not be everybody's taste, but I am a lot of people's fetish.
Whatever.
Oh, hold the fuck up. Punch. You and Coop took out 12 guys in 2 minutes?
Oh, back in the day, our personal best was 14.
14 guys. What the fuck? Ow.
Punch-Up's got a, special technique. Real classy stuff. Maybe if you ask nice, I'll tell you about it.
My lips are sealed.
Well said, friend.
I'm stacking mad dubs today, baby.
Time to freak some fuckers out.
Alright, time for Hacker Man. Alright, here we go. Well, I managed to stop that bank robbery without Malevola getting her ass beat, which is good. You need to be better at combat. Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, man, I got a mad headache right now. That's why this one's a little mid.
Huh. Pretty breathtaking work back there.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all.
This shit is weird. It's like we're working, what's the word? As a team.
Uh-huh. Baby, that's got a name. It's teamwork.
Isn't that like a sexting?
What type of sexting would that be?
It's not really safe for work, you know. I'll text it to you.
That's teamwork. Isn't that a sex thing?
That's some fucking teamwork, alright?
Alright.
Invisigal, where are you going?
Aw. Visigal's sad.
Are you smoking in a playground? The fuck's wrong with you?
There you go. One more strike against me. You gotta get rid of somebody, right? I'm making it easy for you.
No, you're quitting. You're not making it easy for me. You're making it easy for you.
You don't get it. Some people are born to be heroes. I'm not one of them.
God damn it,
I tried.
Invisigal.
This wasn't meant to be.
You were the
Meant to be.
only one I literally the only one that I wanted to keep on this team.
Hero powers. Strong, out there for all to see.
Flying through the sky. Nothing to hide.
What's your point?
I have fucking villain powers. I can turn invisible and skulk in the shadows. My powers let me steal shit and watch famous people fuck. Being a villain is my fate. It's in the fucking stars.
Power lets me steal
In the
shit.
same way that Blonde Blazer was always meant to be a hero.
And watch famous
you're looking
people
for answers
fuck.
in the stars. Well, listen, they're just rocks or gas or alien cum. Okay, I don't know.
If you don't know, why are you still talking?
They're not even real, okay? Any message you're seeing is light that took thousands of years to hit your eyeballs, so...
If you're getting any messages, it's useless, because it was for some fucker that died a long time ago.
You've already been a hero, okay? You have no idea what I'm dealing with.
Oh, get out of here. At least you were born with powers. I don't have shit. So according to your dumbass theory, I should be an accountant.
You aren't far off.
Fate, destiny, not having powers, seasonal depression, none of these things kept me
From being a hero before. And they won't keep me from being a hero again.
Come on, Invisigal, don't do
my
this shit.
God. You want to talk about fate?
That lightning-struck fuck that's been on
okay.
the debris is 2 blocks from your location. Maybe the third time's the charm.
I told you. I'm out.
You really want to let this idiot get one over on you a third time?
What makes you think it'd be any different?
You're pissed. I get it. You know what I like to do when I'm pissed? Punch things. Often, bad people.
I do like to punch things.
I know, you're great at it. Go be great one more time.
Or are you just gonna sit there and subject kids to secondhand smoke?
Why, yes, druids are pretty awesome that way.
Don't do it. Don't fucking give that kid a cigarette.
He's the one I bummed it from. What's the address?
Shut the fuck up!
Damn.
You ain't worried about a hero crashing the party?
Load that up. Where's your boy?
See now, this is why being invisible is a pretty damn good superpower. They never see your ass coming.
You, donut girl. You sure you want to do this again?
Invisigal, are you alright?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just help me find this fucker.
Got him. He's at your 5 o'clock.
It's not fair that you can see me, but I can't see you.
I'm flying blind here. I can't see anything. Great. Give me a second to tap into this.
Hackerman to the rescue.
All right. A little more tricky.
Sure, take your time.
Shh. I need quiet.
Shit.
Oh, fuck.
What? What is it?
Antivirus. There you are.
Alright.
Got it. I can see again.
That makes one of us. So where the hell is he?
Shit, he's right behind you.
I can't see him from this camera. Let me try get another one online. Shit.
Damn it.
Oh,
that up.
come on.
We are in Hackerman.
He's at your 7.
That wasn't so hard, was it?
He's heading your way.
Invisigal, I got a plan.
Fuck you. Okay, for real?
Got it. On the count of 3, I'm going to turn on the main overhead lights, which should temporarily blind him.
Giving you a chance to take him out.
1,
2,
3.
Got him. Got him. Oh yeah, choke his ass out. There we go.
I'm no hero. Fuck, no, let me try that again. Yeah, you see me? Wait, what about lights out, Thundercook?
Oh god.
That's the one. Would have been better if you said it first.
Right, because lightning, thunder, struck cookbook so close.
Hey, Bengal boy! More like Bengal bitch!
Or bitch boy! Hey, Bengal bitch boy, fuck you!
Way to go!
Why are those assholes not being assholes?
Isn't this what you were going for?
Yeah, but I didn't think it would work. I don't get it.
So, this one keeps the comm line one-on-one. This one connects to the whole team. And this one goes out to the entire branch.
Fuck.
Good job. Yeah, you got off light. One dispatcher broadcast the details of his botched circumcision.
Oh, wow.
HR nightmare. Did you mean all that? You really think she has a shot? All that stuff about fate sounded good, but I don't know if you were just saying what you thought she needed to hear.
I want it to work. Someone like Invisigal turning it around is what this program should be about. I'm rooting for her.
So am I. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Aw.
Yeah, shit, that was great.
This mission was textbook.
Genuinely, dude, I'm really happy for you.
So, it's between Sonar and Coop.
What? That's not no. Invisigal's still at the bottom of the board.
Oh, the one in the bullpen? That thing updates every hour. Invisigal moved up. Catching lightning struck really gave her a huge boost.
Bangle boy? Really?
The donut shop escape, slipping past Malevola, now the jewelry store, really bumped up the wanted levels.
Oh, really?
It's like missing the free throw on purpose to get the putback.
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I don't watch
You're
football.
gonna force
but
me to keep flambe.
Look, I know I'm not supposed to play favorites here, but even if she was on the bottom, I'm not sure I'd have let you cut her.
Then it's a good thing she's not.
Yeah. So, these two are now tied for last place. Who do we cut? Sonar or Coop? It's your call. I support it all the way.
Oh, come on, I don't want to get rid of either of them. This is not fair.
Sonar it is. He had to use his distress beacon before he even left the building today, so I'm not sure it's gonna work.
What happened?
He thought he was gonna see boobs and got tricked.
You somehow gave me too much detail and not enough detail in one sentence. All right, I'll get started on the paperwork.
I didn't actually pick
I'll let him
that. It just, when it ran out, it
Hey,
auto-picked for
Robert.
me.
Great work today.
I didn't want to pick either of them. God damn it.
So, I'm sure you know why you're here.
Nah, not at all, man. No clue. What's up? What's going on, Robbie?
You,
Oh my god, stop doing this.
Well, I'm cutting you.
What? No. What? Invisigal's. So she should be getting cut. She's on the bottom.
Not anymore, actually. Her last dispatch put her above you.
Oh, this isn't fair. Oh shit.
Hey! They're gonna call security!
This isn't over.
It actually is. Sorry it didn't work out.
Watch your back, Robert.
Why is this? What? Did you?
No. You must have just locked it.
Sorry, force of... Fuck you!
Damn it. I'm gonna get murdered by a bat by the end of this.
You accessorizing?
You could call it that.
Did he try to choke you with that or something?
No, he just left it.
You're lucky he just stopped at the tie. Hey, check it out. I've been doing some accessorizing myself.
This sucks. I didn't want that to happen.
You are spoiling him.
Nonsense. Talking about.
You ready to go home, bud?
Aw, but Invisigal is still there, so whatever. Aw, that was so cute.
I still would have cut you.
Well, no one fucking asked you, old man.
Lucky fucking for you.
Thanks.
Damn it. That was so depressing. I didn't want to let him go. That wasn't fair. Alright, let's see how I did. You and only 35% of players cut Sonar. Now I feel worse. This sucks. Now I'm sad. "77% of players threw a chair into Gollum." You and 99% of players helped Invisigal against Lightning Struck? I didn't even know you... There wasn't an option not to help her. How the hell... You and 63% of players says all of you are Phoenixes. 34% said fuck the stars. Out of 5 times the hero was sabotaged, you helped them escape with no injuries 4 times. 21% of players sent Punch Up and Coop to compete in the fighting tournament together, and 80% successfully protected Victor Vaslov from all of his enemies. All success rate was in the 30th percentile and activated a hero's power 18 times. Alrighty then. Alright, everybody. Well, I've had a I had a lot of fun playing with you guys today, and this was very enjoyable for me. And thank you guys for coming to see me while I streamed and support me in this new VTubing thing I'm trying out. And I really like it, especially having you guys here talking. Yes, Tess, actually. Sorry, I was into the end of that last one and wasn't really was kind of paying more attention to that rather than the conversation, but the circle of druids, they have a bunch of animals they can turn into, and the animals are based on challenge ratings. So whenever you turn into something, it's something of a certain power, and as you level up, that power goes up as well. That is a challenge rating. It is a rating of how tough that animal is. CR stands for challenge rating. Sorry about that. The game was still playing on in the background. Yes, you explained that very well. You're definitely learning a lot. I'm proud of you. Well, the animals themselves, they change as you go up. You have a list of animals that you can become. And each of them, as you level up, is more powerful. But there are often greater versions of the animals, like challenge rating one animal might be a wolf, and then you can later become a dire wolf, which I believe is a challenge rating 3. And, being a big wolf the size of a pony is a little scary. Yes, exactly. See? You're learning. It's better to ask questions, right? I don't know. I think I'd classify you as a cute wolf more than a dire wolf, really. Exactly. You're a cute wolf, not a dire wolf. I believe a dire wolf is a challenge rating 3, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't have the monster manual in front of me right now. I mean, you say that, but you're just sitting there being adorable, so pardon me if I don't believe you. Alright, guys. Well, it was a lot of fun playing tonight, and I'll be sure to invite you guys to the next one. We made it through 3 chapters tonight, so that was fun. I know, that sucked. I am so upset about that. Like, if I could go back to just that decision, I probably would choose to cut Coop. I'm sad. I wanted to keep the bad boy. It's so mean. I mean, I wouldn't say it's low on the tier, but I believe the first levels of being a druid limits you to challenge rating 1/4. So a challenge rating 1 creature is actually a pretty big step up. I mean, there might be. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've looked at the druid class, but there is also a lot of homebrew content out there that can be added. I usually like to prefer, or I usually prefer to play with homebrew content just because it makes things more fun. I bet I could find a druid class that's pretty much specifically for the wolf subtype. Do you? I could have sworn you were locked in at like 1/8 and 1/4 for a while, but maybe that's the old 2014 rules. But yes, either of those would be really nice for you. Shape changer or badass butt stabber. Sneak up on people and make them regret ever being born. that is also kind of up to the DM, really. If you find a DM who likes the rule of cool more than the rules as written, which most DMs do, then they should be able to give you cooler versions to turn into. But anyways, guys, it's about time for me to end this stream. So once more, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me like this. We can talk more later if you are interested in figuring out these rules. If it's interesting, I can even do a whole D&D stream where I can explain the interesting rules and how to play and stuff. Yes. All right. Well, good night, everybody, and thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate the support. You two in my campaign, I'll see you this weekend, or I'll probably stream again between here and then, so you can come hang out with me again if you're free. But until then, have a good night, and remember that I love you all. I really hope you're doing well. You're not keeping me up. Like I said, I love showing and teaching new people about D&D. It's a lot of fun. All right. But for now, good night, everybody.